Okay, I figure I'm gonna come on here and do a quick spoiler review for Wonder Woman 1984. It's gonna be a handheld and, low quality as always. But, anyways, alright, so I still haven't figured out exactly a formula or a format how to do things. If I should review it by quality or review it by my preference. So, I first think I'll do it by quality and then my preference and then go into my thoughts. All right, so overall, I would say Wonder Woman 84 was or is a good movie. I say if we're comparing it to the first movie, Gal Gadot's acting is a vast improvement. It doesn't feel um, nearly as put on or as like it doesn't feel phony. It feels like she's actually the person instead of just acting. Um, Patty Jenkins has made big strides in far as her use of VFX and the action as far as it looks um, is a big improvement. Regardless of how the commercials and advertisements look, actually when you're in there, especially with something like IMAX, and you have context for the action, it looks way better than it does in the ads, and it actually looks better than it did in the first Wonder Woman. For example, when Baby Diana in the first movie is looking at all the other Amazons and she's, shadow boxing or whatever, and then she runs and jumps off the balcony, that looks super fake, like super fake with like a blue screen or whatever. It doesn't look like she's really jumping or even in that space. Kind of like in old movies where they're driving and the background is clearly a recording or whatever. They're clearly not driving. It's the same effect. But in this movie, um, you don't really have that issue. And like I said, Patty made big strides in her skills with action and just directing CG. Um, as far as story goes, all stories are equal, really. It all depends on execution, and it was executed fine. Like you could tell a story literally about going to the store, and it be an amazing story or whatever. Um, or you could tell the most wild story, and it stink just by the way you tell it. Um, so as a film, I'd say this was a pretty good movie. Now, if we compare it to the first one, I would say it's a better movie than the first one. It's not as generic, not as cliche, and there's definitely silliness, just like there's in the first one, but to a lesser degree. The corniest, most silly part is probably the mall scene, and then after that, the main antagonist, the male antagonist, Maxwell Lord. But and you can see through the commercials that he's kind of doing like a typical 80s car salesman performance, like a William Shatner or a Phil Hartman, and but it's intentional. So that's the biggest difference. If you're being corny and it's intentional, that's a lot more forgivable than if you're corny and you don't know, because you're essentially in on the joke and you're actually doing what you intended to do. You're not coming off. Um, it's not coming off as bad because that's the point. Now, so now that that's said and done, I think it's a pretty good movie. Acting has improved, action has improved, visuals have improved. The performances by supporting cast is maintained. Like Chris was, he maintained the same level of um, quality and performance. Um, so getting into the story, this is going to be a spoiler review, and I only have like a minute left because apparently there's a timer on this. I don't have much space on my phone, but There's a lot of parallels between this one and the first one, except that it's a role reversal where um, instead of Steve being the guide and Diana being the fish out of water, he's the fish out of water, or in this case, the fish out of time, and she is the guide to the modern age. There's like a dance scene parallel, like so she once they rescue the village, she's like they're not dancing, or they're watching people dance. Here he sees people breakdancing. There's a clothes try on scene, so there's a lot of parallels. This movie also expanded on the mythos of like the gods, and a lot of the movies, about 7 out of the 9 DCEU movies, have mentioned the ancient gods, and they really are portrayed as having had a large role in our history and actually being very powerful. And it was no different in this, talking about like artifacts and things that they've imbued. And well, I'm out of time, so I guess I'll catch you soon.